Heidi by Johanna Spyri. Heidi. Heidi by Johanna Spyri, adapted by Celia Bland. Illustrated by Eva Clift. Contents. Chapter 1, The Alm Uncle, page 11. Chapter 2, At the Grandfather's, page 25. Chapter 3, In the Pasture, page 37. Chapter 4, At the Grandmother's, page 51. Chapter 5, A Visitor, page 65. Chapter 6, In Frankfurt, page 73. Chapter 7, Fraulein Rottenmeier's Uncomfortable Day, page 87. Chapter 8, The Master of the House, page 105. Chapter 9, The Ghost, page 117. Chapter 10, Home to the Alm, page 133. Chapter 11, Another Visitor, page 149. Chapter 12, Something Unexpected Happens, page 163. Chapter 13, Miracle on the Mountain, page 173. About the author, page 189. Chapter 1, The Alm Uncle. From the old Swiss town of Mayenfeld, a steep footpath winds through shady green meadows into the solemn and majestic Alps. One sunny June morning, a sturdy-looking young woman was climbing this narrow path. She led by the hand a little maiden whose cheeks glowed red as apples. And no wonder, in spite of the hot sun, she was wearing 3 dresses, one on top of the other, heavy boots and a rain scarf wrapped around her neck. And a red scarf wrapped around her neck. After an hour of climbing, the two came to the village of Dorfli, halfway up the Alm Mountain. The young woman seemed to be a native of this village, for she was greeted from every cottage. But she would not stop to talk and put off questions with a wave of her hand. "Wait a minute, Didi. I'll go with you," a pleasant-faced woman named Barbel called from an open doorway. The young woman stopped, and the child plopped down upon the ground. "Are you tired, Heidi?" her companion asked. "I'm hot," complained the little girl. "We're almost there, just an hour farther." Barbel joined them, and the little procession continued up the Alp, the child plodding along in the rear. "Where are you taking the little girl, DT?" asked the newcomer. "She's your sister's child, isn't she? The orphan?" "Yes, Barbel," DT replied. "I am taking Heidi to live with her grandfather." "What? To live with the Alm Uncle? Have you lost your senses?" "He is her grandfather, and it is his turn to take care of her. I have had her till now, and can no longer keep her." "But you know what kind of man he is," Barbel said. "What will he do with a child, especially such a young one? And where are you going?" "To Frankfurt," said DT. "I have found a good job keeping house for a wealthy family there." "Well, I'm glad I'm not in the child's place," Barbel muttered, with a shrug of her shoulders. "The Alm Uncle hates everyone. He never even goes to church. Tell me, DT, what makes him look so fierce? Why does he live all alone up there on that mountain? Has he always been a hermit?" "Well, I will tell you, but don't go gossiping about the village," said DT. and she glanced around to see if Heidi were so close at their heels as to hear what was said. But the little girl had disappeared. "There she is," cried Barbel, and pointed away from the footpath into the beautiful meadow. The little girl could be seen talking with a young boy carrying a crooked stick. "She's with Peter and his goats. He'll look after her. She can look after herself." "She can look after herself, that one," DT replied. "And a good thing, too. Her grandfather owns nothing but his hut and some goats." "Didn't he used to have more?" Barbel asked. "He once had the best farm on the Alm, but he was reckless and gambled everything away. He then ran away to the city and became a soldier. Some say he deserted the military after he'd killed a man in a quarrel. In any case, he came home years later with a half-grown son, Tobias, and asked his relations to take the boy in. They shut their doors in his face. He was so angry that he turned against everyone and set up a home in Dorfli with Tobias. When Tobias grew up, he trained as a carpenter and worked in Dorfli. He was a handsome man, well liked by everyone, and my mother was pleased he married my sister, Adelheid. But Adelheid was delicate, and when Tobias was killed by a falling beam in a house he was building, the shock killed her, too. The tragic fate of the couple was thought to be punishment for the uncle's wicked ways, which made the townspeople despise him even more. It was then that he went to live on the Alm mountaintop and never came down again. So Mother and I took Adelaide's daughter, Heidi, to live with us when she was just a year old. But now that Mother is dead and I have found this job." "So you are going to leave her with that old man? I am surprised at you, DT," Barbel said reproachfully. "What else am I to do with her?" DT snapped. "My job starts the day after tomorrow." "But where are you going, Barbel? We are already halfway up the Alm." They had reached a hollow in the mountain, somewhat sheltered from the wind. "I have to see Peter's grandmother," said Barbel. "She spends for me in the winter. Goodbye and good luck." Freya. DT watched Barbel pick her way down a stony path to a little cottage. The roof sagged and a shutter hung by one hinge. One strong winter storm, DT thought, and the hut would be blown into the valley. She shrugged, then looked around for a glimpse of Heidi and Peter. They were nowhere in sight. Peter must have taken the goats he herded for the villagers to the meadow. DT started up the path. Heidi had better be with him, she thought angrily. The children had been chasing the goats, which leaped from one tasty shrub to another. At first, Heidi panted as she ran after Peter, but the sight of the boy leaping barefoot over the bush and stone gave her an idea. She sat down and pulled off her boots and stockings. Next, the 3 dresses were folded into a neat pile with the red scarf on top, and Heidi danced happily after Peter in just her undershirt and petticoat. Peter grinned when he saw Heidi's new costume, but said nothing. How could he when Heidi chattered nonstop, skipping beside him? How many goats did he have? Where was he taking them? Her stream of questions was interrupted only by the sight of her Aunt DT. "Look at you, Heidi," DT scolded. "What have you done with your clothes? And where are your new boots and the stockings I knitted for you?" The child calmly pointed down the mountain. "There," she said. Her aunt squinted, following the direction of Heidi's finger. She could just make out the red of the scarf. "You mischievous girl. Why did you take them off?" "I didn't need them," Heidi said, not looking in the least bit sorry. DT turned to Peter. "Run down and fetch them," she ordered. "I'm already late." Peter stood with his hands in his pockets, not moving. DT tried another approach. Come now, Peter, she coaxed. You can have this new penny for your trouble. At the sight of the shiny coin, the boy leaped into motion, taking the quickest way down the hillside. He was back so fast that DT could not help praising him. Peter grinned with delight as she slipped the penny into his pocket. Such treasure did not come his way very often. Up the steep path they climbed, Heidi and the goats romping merrily in the grass. She was the first one to see the old man sitting on a wooden bench outside a lonely hut, smoking a pipe. He had been watching the little group approach. Heidi ran straight to the old man. "How do you do, grandfather?" she said. "What's this?" he exclaimed. His voice was deep and gruff. He drew his bushy eyebrows together in a fierce frown as he stared at the little girl. Heidi looked into his face without once blinking her eyes. "Good morning, Uncle," DT called. "I have brought Tobias and Adelheide's child to live with you." The old man glared at her, then shouted at Peter, "Here, you! Get along with the goats and take mine with you." Peter swung his long stick to start the goats up the mountain again. DT continued firmly. "She's come to stay. I've done my share, Uncle. Now it's your turn." "Indeed," the old man snorted. "And when the child begins to whine for you, what shall I do with her? That's your business." The look on the old man's face made DT step back quickly. "Be off with you," he roared, "and don't show your face here again." "Very well, then." DT was backing away as she spoke. "Goodbye, Heidi." "Goodbye, Uncle." DT hurried away down the mountain to Dorfli, her conscience not quite easy about what she had done. The villagers cried to her as she passed, "Where is the child? DT, where have you left the child?" To which she irritably replied, "Up with the uncle, I tell you." She felt very glad that she would soon be in a fine situation, far away from the uncle and the talk of the villagers.